Over the years, I made the occasional money-making guide here and there, covering various different methods across skilling, killing different NPCs, and bossing. But not everyone is in the position yet to boss, or maybe you simply just don't want to. The OSRS Wiki contains so many different ways to make money that you can easily get overwhelmed and lost in the sea of methods. And then when you finally do try something out, it makes nowhere near the amount of GP it said. So that's why I decided to test over 20 methods available on the OSRS Wiki, just to see how much GP you can really make. Came here expecting bossing though? Here you go. With each method I go over, I'm going to be listing the hourly GP rate reported on the wiki, the rate I personally received, the requirements for it, and how AFK the method is from 1 to 10. If you're looking for a Chillscape community to be a part of, or to play with other moneymakers like yourself, feel free to check out my Discord in the description. But let's just get right into this with the first method. First method we have from the wiki is an absolute classic, which is smelting Cannonballs. Listed over 600k GP per hour, I ended up receiving closer to 370k GP, but this is because the listed rate assumes you have a double ammo mold from the Giant's Foundry minigame. The only requirements to smelt Cannonballs is the Dwarf Cannon quest, which is extremely easy, and also 35 smithing. Then all you do is take an ammo mold, fill your inventory with steel bars, and use the best furnace you have, which is usually Edgeville. This will get a 10 on the AFK scale. I mean, you can literally walk away from your PC for minutes at a time, come back, bank, and repeat. Though keep in mind, if you decide to go and get the double ammo mold from Giant's Foundry, which makes 8 Cannonballs every action instead of 4, essentially doubling your GP per hour, this will make Cannonballs less AFK, but does have the benefit of that extra GP. While I don't have a dedicated Giant's Foundry guide, I do go over an easy way to do it in my skilling outfit video in the Smith's uniform section, which is linked on screen now. Next method we're testing is Pickpocketing Elves, which is locked behind a few big quests, but instantly we can assume this hourly rate is going to be lower than expected, and the reason we know this is because it relies on obtaining a 1 in 1k pickpocket drop in a reasonable amount of time to balance out your hourly GP. That drop being the Enhanced Crystal Teleport Seed at about 2 million GP, and with a full Rogue's outfit equipped, you would receive 2 of them, so 4 million. You're gonna need 85 thieving to pickpocket these guys in the first place, but the higher the better, as at 85 you're gonna fail a lot. At 47 magic you can use the spell Shadow Veil from the Arceus spellbook, which lasts a minute and decreases your chances of failing a pickpocket. And additionally, you can wear dodgy necklaces for a 25% chance to avoid getting stunned when you fail. And of course the Ardoin Hard Diary helps as well, as you get a game-wide 10% increased chance to pickpocketing. You can easily find an elf directly outside the player-owned house portal, so you can restore your rejuvenation pool if you have it, or just go to the Furance Enclave and teleport back. On an AFK scale, this is a 2. Yes, I know you're clicking the entire time, so it's not exactly AFK, but most of the time you're just clicking in one spot, so I don't think it warrants a 1. The wiki GP rate is listed at about 2.5 million GP per hour for reasons I explained earlier, but in my hour of testing and unsuccessfully getting a crystal teleport seed, we ended up making about 200k GP. And this is just because of the coin pouch drops and other random things from pickpocketing, so methods like this that rely on a big drop, don't come here and after 1 hour expect to just have 2.5 million GP. I figured I should put 2 big item reliant pickpocketing methods back to back, though this method of Pickpocketing Vyres is more GP per hour, being listed at 4 million. You have a chance of pickpocketing a blood shard from Vyres at a rate of 1 in 5k, but if you're wearing a full rogue's outfit for double the loot, you would obtain 2 blood shards and get a stimulus of about 24 million GP in just 1 click. Requiring 82 thieving, so a little less than elves, and Sins of the Father completed, everything applies from here with Pickpocketing Elves being the dodgy necklaces and Shadow Veil and so on. You take a good bit of damage here, as the fail rate is pretty annoying, so be prepared to eat a lot to restore HP, or you can bring prayer potions to make use of redemption, or just teleport to a restore pool and come back whenever you get low. I always go to the Vyres directly east of the Darkmire teleport in this house. I'm placing this on an AFK scale of 2 for the same reason as Elves, since you're just clicking in one spot most of the time, and my rate achieved without the blood shard drop in a full hour of testing was about 250k GP per hour. Considering we just talked about blood shards, I just want to get Vyrewatch Sentinels out of the way, since they are one of the most AFK'd monsters to kill, simply because of how AFK it really is, and that 1 in 1500 chance at a blood shard versus the 1 in 5k rate from pickpocketing. This is the same scenario if we go dry on the blood shard. Our hourly rate is going to be pretty abysmal, but when you do get that blood shard, oh boy does it feel good to scrape that 11 mil off the ground. For this we need Sins of the Father as well, just like last time, and at least 43 prayer for protect from melee, but I would advise 70 plus just so you can AFK longer, and then just have some decent combat stats. I prioritize wearing prayer bonus gear such as Proselyte to increase AFK time, and the most popular area to kill them is going to Darkmire, running to the bank and altar area, and if you bring your Vyrewatch Noble clothes, you can bank at any time here, and also hop easily to find an open world. You can AFK for however many minutes to drain your prayer, simply hit the altar, and return to AFKing. Another popular spot, and the spot I use, is just south of the Darkmire teleport where there's 2 Vyrewatch Sentinels, and this is where I prefer to go and then just telly to house and restore at my pool, or go to the Desert Amulet if you're that far progressed. But the hourly rate on the wiki is 950k GP per hour, and I did it for a full hour without getting a blood shard drop, and my actual rate was about 150k GP per hour. I do give this a 10 out of 10 on the AFK scale though. While it is faster to get blood shards via pickpocketing, AFKing Sentinels is super easy and chill, and a very popular option if you're making an ult. Opening crystal chests is an interesting one. There is very low skill requirements, since all you need is a crystal key to open the chest, which you can just buy from the GE, and you should have your player-owned house set to Taverly so you can easily just teleport outside your house to open the chests. Each time you open a crystal chest, you make a small amount of profit depending on what you get. Most of the time it is profit, but sometimes it isn't. And after a full hour of doing this, you could technically make over 1 million GP, at least according to the wiki, though to buy 420 crystal keys, which is around the maximum you could do in an hour if you're efficient, this would cost you 8.4 million GP and return 9.6 million GP by the end of an hour, so some capital is needed unless you want to start out with like 100 keys at a time. I played around with it at first to see how many crystal keys to bring to be efficient, because some drops flood your inventory with items like runes, so I ended up bringing about 7 to 8 crystal keys, house tabs with my house set to Taverly, and then dueling rings to get to the Castle Wars and bank. For my testing for a full hour of doing this, I ended up with an hourly profit of about 890k GP per hour, so a little less than the wiki rate, but this could just be bad RNG due to the chest drops that I personally got. To rate this on an AFK scale, we're giving it a solid 1, considering you're often banking, spamming to open the chests, depositing your items, and having to get back out more crystal keys, and repeating. Next up is buying Monkey Nuts on Apatol after the completion of Monkey Madness 2. The wiki states all we need is Graceful, which is optional technically, stamina pots, and a little bit of GP to buy the Monkey Nuts. All we do here is buy a full inventory from the food stall on Apatol, bank, and repeat. When the shop runs out of stock, we simply hop worlds and keep at it. That's all there is to this method, and coming in at a reported GP rate of 1.5 million GP per hour, my actual rate was 1.4 million GP, so this actually is a pretty legit method, and to rate this on an AFK scale, it's a 1. I mean, similar to Crystal Chest, you're constantly banking, buying, and hopping, and don't really have a single opportunity to step away. Buying kegs of beer is another shop method, and we're going to be purchasing these from Thora in the Relica bar for around 450 GP average a piece, and after we get a full inventory of these, we simply deposit the kegs into our bank using Fiyr the Seer, who acts as a deposit box, assuming you have the easy Fremenic diary. I wore Graceful and brought 1 to 2 stam pots just to keep up on my stamina. You could even bring 2 to 3 just to be safe, and that's all there really is to this method. You need about 800k GP of starting capital to buy kegs for a full hour, and with a reported rate of 1.4 million GP profit, my actual rate was closer to about 700k, and this is because I wasn't able to sell the kegs for the GE price of 712 per, and I was even struggling to sell them for 600 a piece at the time I tested it. I definitely prefer the Monkey Nut method, though this does have less requirements since Monkey Nuts requires Monkey Madness 2. Casting Tan Leather requires the completion of the quest Lunar Diplomacy to unlock the Lunar Spellbook, and additionally you'll need the Hard Fremenic diary completed to unlock the Tan Leather spell. Requiring 78 magic, we take a Fire Staff along with Astral and Nature runes, pick one of the 4 chromatic dragon hides, fill your inventory with it, and cast Tan Leather until it's done. Bank, and repeat. This is relatively low intensity, though you do need to click a few times to get your inventory completed. So while it may not be quote-unquote AFK, it's low intensity. You can turn on the inventory viewer plugin to see how many you have left to tan to make it easier, and currently the most profitable hide you can do is Black Dragon Hide, but this requires a great amount of capital, and by great, I mean you'll need about 23 million GP worth of Black Dragon Hide for a full hour. Considering this, I went for a middle ground option and did Blue Dragon Hide, so it is less profit per hour, but way less capital, and after 1 full hour of doing this, I received about 660k GP for our hourly rate. To rate this on an AFK scale, I'd give it about a 4, just since it is low intensity, but you don't exactly have an opportunity to step away. So dismantling bracelets of Ethereum is a GE method that requires a tremendous amount of capital for a reported rate of 1.1 million GP per hour. It's never a good sign when in the fine print of the method itself it states the rate doesn't take GE tax into account, which they probably should considering it tanks the method. I bought about 30 minutes worth of bracelets since you can just double the profit from that and get the hourly rate, and that alone costed me to put up 77 million GP. The method consists of changing the left click option using shift right click on Runelight so that you can one click dismantle them, hold the 1 key on your keyboard, and spam click the last one in your inventory to dismantle all of them into Revenant Ether. I was buying each bracelet for about 44k, and you can get 250 Ether from dismantling one, which comes out to about 44.2k total. So you're only making about 1 to 200 GP profit per bracelet, but since you can dismantle them so fast, that's where the hourly rate comes in. By the time I had finished and sold all my Ether and took the 1% GE cut, I was making about 650k GP per hour, but considering how much capital you need to do this in the first place, you could just as easily buy good PVM gear and do something as low level as Barrows and make more GP per hour. And just to poop on this method even more, I'm gonna give it a 1 out of 10 on the AFK scale since you're constantly clicking and banking. Crafting drift nets was a method I've never heard of or tested myself, and since the requirements were so low for it, I decided to do it. This only requires 26 crafting and an inventory of jute fiber being used on a loom. The best loom you can use is available after the completion of the quest Bon Voyage and building the loom in the Fossil Island camp, which is just 4 oak planks, a rope, iron bar, 10 nails, and 29 construction. Though if you are very low level and don't have Bon Voyage, your next best bet would probably be the Falador farm and banking in either Draenor Village or Falador, but I recommend you just do Bon Voyage. We just run back and forth from the bank chest and loom on Fossil Island, making an inventory of drift nets and repeating. And that's really all there is to this method. I'll give it a 9 on the AFK scale since it's a very relaxed method, but you do have to bank after only a short amount of time, and there was a reported rate of 800k GP per hour, but for me it was a little closer to 600k. Good method though for low levels to get some starter GP. Green Dragons are such an iconic method for me, and it looks like they're still over 900k GP per hour. They can be found in a couple different places in low level Wildy, and you just kill them to get their Dragon Bones and Green Dragon Hide to sell. While you can kill them in the Wildy with just some basic range gear, like a Rune Crossbow, I try to avoid the Wildy personally whenever I can, but that doesn't mean you can't just go out there and start farming. I focus my sights on the Green Dragons specifically in the basement of the Myths Guild, and this does require the completion of Dragon Slayer 2, so that is kind of a big requirement. I took melee gear and a Fang into the basement with an extended anti-fire, prayer pot, super combat, and a Mythscape to easily access the cavern, and just run to them, start killing them. I chose to use a defender for more DPS instead of a dragon fire shield, but if you're getting pieced up by them, definitely equip one. After I get a full inventory of loot, I would just use the Mythscape, go upstairs, bank, Myths teleport again, repeat. This will be comparable to the GP per hour from the Wildy method, since in the Wildy you can use a looting bag and won't have to bank as frequently, and I was getting a little over 800k GP per hour. It's not really AFK considering you're constantly killing them, have to eat to avoid dying if you're not using a dragon fire shield, and bank a lot, so I'll give it a 2. Lava Dragons can be found in level 40 Wilderness on the Lava Dragon Isle, which is accessible from the north via various different teleports to get there, or you can use the shortcut to the south at level 74 Agility. So my preference is to just Games Necklace to the Corp Cave and run north and use that shortcut. Once here you can safe spot the Lava Dragons in ranged or mage gear for an estimated 1.3 million GP per hour according to the Wiki. I took a very low risk setup considering this is the Wildy, and I just used a Rune Crossbow and Diamond Bolt Ease. But I did have an Anguish since it was protected, and make sure to have PK Skull Prevention on. Otherwise, just other basic gear, a range pot, prayer pots for offensive prayers if you want, and simply tag a Lava Dragon and safe spot it until it dies. Once it's dead, get its loot, repeat. With the gear I was using, I was getting about 650k GP per hour, but I'd forgotten to bring a looting bag, so I had to bank once or twice. But if you did bring one, the rate would be about 750k GP per hour with this exact gear. I believe the wiki rate of 1.3 million GP is assuming you have better than rags like I'm using, like a crossbow. Since you're safe spotting them, this method is about a 6 on the AFK scale, and it would be higher if it wasn't in the wilderness, so you always have to be careful so you don't die and lose all your loot. At 84 Thieving, you're able to open chests at the Rogue Castle in level 54 Wilderness. There's 3 chests here, and you simply rotate between each of them by right-clicking it and searching it for traps to successfully open it. This provides various different rewards, but are all high-volume items and should always sell consistently. Without having the Medium Wilderness Diary completed, you'll only receive a quarter of the loot, so definitely make sure to have that before even thinking about this. And having the Hard Diary will actually even give you a bonus of 25% more loot. When you open the chests, all the rogues in the area will begin to to attack you, so I just brought some monk robes for a prayer bonus and prayed protect from melee to avoid dying. This sucks though because they prevent you from logging out if a PKer comes, but if one does, you can try using the stairs in the northwest and go up and down to try and trick the PKer and buy yourself time to log out, or you can just try to book it and run south. You can bring a looting bag to loot the chest easily and store your loot, and all else that I brought was a prayer pot or two and a few pieces of food. The Wiki states this is 2 million GP per hour, and I'm actually happy to report that that's pretty accurate since I got 2.15 mil in 1 hour. And this will be consistent since you're not hoping for a big ticket item. Other than the fact that you're in deep wildy and you can easily get PK'd, this was a pretty enjoyable method, and I got over 200k thieving XP as well. I'm gonna give this a 1 on the AFK scale though. Zombie pirates have been a popular method for a bit now, and I finally decided to test it out for myself. Found at the Chaos Temple in about level 11 Wilderness, zombie pirates can be killed for various amounts of drops, including bladed items, alkables, zombie pirate keys, and other things. I wouldn't even consider doing this unless you have the medium wilderness diary completed, just like the Rogue's Castle, because you'll only receive a quarter of the loot. Assuming you have it though, a popular method is to just slap a cannon down, bring some combat gear, whether that be a Venator bow if you got some cheddar, crossbow also works, or even just a magic short bow for super budget. I ended up going with a melee approach and used the Ursine chain mace, I think that's what it's called, and it went pretty good. Definitely bring a looting bag for this and some bladed restores, some bladed food, Cerebrews and Karam ones to tick eat against PKers, and that was pretty much it. While you're killing them, you're always going to get tele blocked, so if a PKer attacks you, just Hail Mary to the south and hop the ditch. Since you're only in level 11 Wilderness about, you should be able to live. You'll need at least 37 prayer to use protect from magic, and you're golden. The wiki reports about 2.4 million GP per hour, and that's actually the exact rate that I got, which was 2.4 million GP. Another thing to note, if you're getting sick of getting teleported around by the Elder Chaos Druids constantly, you can buy a teleport anchor scroll off the GE to prevent this, but at the time when I recorded this, they were like 5 mil. All in all though, this is a good method that all levels can do once you get that medium diary. I'm gonna give this an AFK rating of 1. Fiyr Shades can be located within the Shades Catacomb and require a silver shade key to be reached. This has a few requirements such as Shades of Morton, in aid of the Mire key, a Salve Amulet E to be efficient, 43 prayer for protect from melee, and lastly 65 fire making to obtain the silver shade key. We need the fire making level so that we can burn some Aeson remains by using a U pyre log and a tinderbox just south of the entrance to the catacombs on one of these. I advise you use a gold coffin so you can store 28 extra shade remains per trip. You can get one of these by just buying some gold locks off the GE, bringing it to the guy right outside the entrance to the catacombs, get a broken coffin from him, and just have it combine it into a gold coffin. Once you get a silver key and can access the west part of the catacombs, I simply just take some combat gear, and I even downgraded mine to get a little more realistic rate for a normal player, and I just started killing them. You can copy my inventory if you'd like, or just something you're comfortable with. Pick up the remains after they die, they don't really drop much else, and once your inventory is full and coffin as well, bank and repeat. If you have the Mauritania Hard Diary unlocked, you'll have unlimited teleports to Berg de Rot, which is very useful for banking and going back to the catacombs. This is a good mid-level moneymaker and is listed at about 900k GP per hour, and that's actually pretty accurate since I got right under it. This is a laid-back method and doesn't involve much risk. I even saw some people just AFKing it in Guthins, so I'll give this an AFK rating of about 5. With the current price of Zenyte shards, Demonic Gorillas are listed at an incredible 4.2 million GP per hour. Obviously, this is taking into account that big ticket drop, so my hourly rate will be more of what you can expect if you don't get the shard in an hour. This does have some big requirements, being Monkey Madness 2 and all the skill requirements that come with that, around base 80 combat stats, and you'll definitely want to use an Arclight. They're found in the Crash Site Cavern behind the Grand Tree, and you can copy my inventory on screen if you want, and I went for a more mid-level setup instead of best in slot, and I was still killing them pretty easily. I do have a full dedicated Demonic Gorilla guide if you want to watch a full explanation on how they work, since they have a couple mechanics, but essentially you'll just need 2 combat styles. Arclight and Blowpipe do wonders. Pray against whatever style they're using. After they fail 3 attacks because of your prayer, they'll switch to a different one, and then you switch prayers. Demonic Gorillas are even easier since I made that guide, since they have a visual cue every time they change their attack style. Lastly, just move a tile when they beat their chest like drums to avoid a boulder crushing you, and that's pretty much it. Another tip for these guys is that they can be killed on a Black Demon Slayer task, so if you're on task, definitely make sure to wear a Slayer helmet for the DPS boost. Sadly, in my hour of testing, I didn't get a Zenyte, though I probably would have just gave it away, but I got about 480k GP per hour without getting one. I think it's worth sticking it out though until you get at least one Zenyte drop, considering it's only 1 in 300, and with how much GP they are currently. Rating Demonic Gorillas on an AFK scale is a pretty disturbing thought, so they're gonna get their own tier under 1. And now for a low-level moneymaker is gonna be killing Awakened Duke. The 4th house dungeon contains a grubby chest that can be opened using a grubby key, getting various different pieces of loot. This is locked behind a door that requires 57 thieving to access, but other than that, there's not really many other requirements. Definitely get a Xerix talisman to teleport to the dungeon easily by going to Xerix Glade, then I just wore full graceful, bring a slash weapon, which I just used the Wildy Diary sword, and then a ring of dueling to go to the Ferox Enclave to restore run energy and to bank. Each trip I would only take 3 keys because of how many items you get, teleport to Xerix Glade, run to the dungeon on screen and follow the path to get to the chest, open it, bank, repeat. Sometimes your inventory will get flooded with things like egg potatoes, and I'll drop these if there's better loot on the floor, or just take them. This is a decent method and had a reported rate of 2.1 million GP, and I actually got over that and got 2.3 million GP in an hour. So this is a solid method and something I would definitely consider if you're just trying to get some starter GP as a lower mid-level, and I'd give this a 4 on the AFK scale, only because most of the time you're just running with your character and not exactly doing a lot. Gargoyles can be killed in the Slayer Tower with 75 Slayer by just bringing some melee gear, preferably Crush. I used a Sarachnis Cudgel, which is actually more DPS than a whip, a Rock Hammer, some food or prayer potions. I prefer just using pots since I can pray melee and AFK, and that's really it. Bringing Alks helps you as well since they do have some rune item drops, and simply killing these guys, even while off task, is reported at 750k GP per hour. Another popular way to kill these guys is using Guthins, so you don't ever have to worry about praying or healing, so that's a completely valid way to go about it. This is a nice and low intensity method since they'll aggro to you, and you can just kick back and relax. After 1 hour of testing, I ended up with 950k GP in items. I did receive a Granite Maul drop though, which is 1 in 256, so if I hadn't received that, we would have made about 600k GP per hour, which for how low intensity it is, really isn't that bad. We'll do this in 8 on the AFK scale. Rune Dragons can be found in the Lithgren Vault after the completion of Dragon Slayer 2, and they can be killed for a guaranteed rune bar each kill, along with different various rune alks, dragon items, dragon bones, and even 2 uniques being the dragon metal lump and dragon limbs. I wouldn't do Rune Drags without having at least 85 base combat stats. We wear our best melee gear available, a Fang will do great here, or a Dragon Hunter Lance. Make sure to wear the insulated boots on your feet slot to prevent extra damage from one of their attacks. Then I just bring 2 doses of a super extended anti-fire, 2 doses of a divine combat, dig site necklace to get there after unlocking the teleport, 4 prayer pots, rune pouch with elks and tellies, and then just sharks. We pot up and pray piety and protect from magic, and you can just auto retaliate since they'll tag you from several tiles away. Rune Dragons are listed at about 1.4 million GP per hour, and that's very accurate because after 1 hour I got 1.5 million GP total. This will fluctuate though depending on how many you can kill per hour, so if you have worse gear than I do, expect less GP. A popular method is to wear full Justice Shear with a Dragon Fire Shield for the set effect of Justy and the large amount of defense, so if you have Justy, go for it, though full strength armor like Bandos and a face guard with a defender will be more GP per hour. If you do have Justy, these will be more quote-unquote AFK or low intensity, but in general I'd give these about a 5. Crafting blood runes at the Arceus altar is one of the most popular methods of training rune crafting because of how AFK it really is, and you do get some profit to top it off. This requires 77 rune crafting, and I would say 73 agility is also mandatory, so you can use the shortcut from the blood altar back down to the essence mine. Here we just take a full Guardians of the Rift outfit if you have it for extra GP, otherwise just full graceful, then a pickaxe, and a chisel, and optionally a blood essence from the GE in our inventory and activated so we craft extra blood runes every time we go to the altar. There's a few other optional things you could get, like the medium Karen diary for a 5% chance at mining an additional essence block while mining, or the elite version of the diary to make that 10%. All we really do is click on a dense runestone, AFK until our inventory is full or it depletes, which in case we just click the other one. Once the inventory is done, we'll run to the dark altar, turn these into dark essence blocks, and chisel all of it into shards. We can do this manually for speed or let it AFK, which takes a minute or 2. And then we'll mine until we get a second inventory, turn those all into dark essence blocks as well, and then take those 2 inventory totals to the blood altar where we make blood runes, slide back down the rock, repeat the process. This is a really chill way of training rune crafting, and we get an alleged 670k GP per hour as well, but for me it was more like 500k GP. To be fair though, I was missing the hat of the rune crafting outfit, so that would help. This gets a 10 on the AFK scale for sure. The blast furnace is a popular way to train smithing by using gold bars with goldsmith gauntlets for high hourly rates of XP, but you can also use other bars than gold for a more profit-focused goal. Smelting rune bars are the best you have available, but this requires about 24 million capital and 85 smithing. Luckily, there is other tiers of bars, with steel bars requiring just 30 smithing and a reported rate of 1.6 million GP per hour. Personally, I decided to test out adamant bars since it's just 70 smithing and comparable to rune bars at 1.7 million GP per hour. Not so fast though, we do have some other requirements as well. First, you have to have the giant dwarf quest started to access Blast Furnace in the first place. We need ice gloves, which are obtained from the Ice Queen under the White Wolf Mountain, and you'll obtain this if you do the Heroes quest, or you can just go kill her anyway. Then the biggest requirement in my eyes would be needing a coal bag, which is a whopping 100 golden nuggets from the Motherlode mine. Assuming you do have all of this though, you can try the method out by doing the following. Equip full graceful along with your ice gauntlets, have 1 dose staminas in the bank nearby and easily accessible. Since I said we're doing adamant bars, have a heap of adamant ore and also coal in the bank and ready to go. We're going to shift click the coal bag in the bank to fill it, then get an inventory full of coal, run to the blast furnace and deposit both of these, run back to the bank, fill your coal bag again, and then get adamant ore in the inventory. And then we're going to just repeat these 2 steps over and over again, collecting the adamant bars every trip of just coal, except for the first trip, obviously. This might take a minute to get used to, but it is worth it considering after 1 hour I made 2.5 million GP and some smithing XP as well. Definitely a 1 on the AFK scale though. Brutal black dragons can be found within the catacombs at Karen and require 77 Slayer to kill, but a few other requirements as well to kill them consistently, being at least 37 prayer minimum for protect from mage, and high ranged, hopefully at least 80 plus. We're going to take the best range gear we have. Void is a good option here, but if you need real budget you can just go Blessed Dragon Hide. Then I would say a bare minimum of a Dragon Crossbow, and next best being the Dragon Hunter Crossbow, but that's a big increase. Diamond Bolt E's just to use with your crossbow are fine, a Xeric's Talisman to get there via the Xeric's Inferno teleport, an extended anti-fire, divine ranging pot, and 2 prayer potions. I bring 2 pieces of food just in case you get hit by the dragons in melee distance, but this isn't required if you're paying attention. Bringing a rune pouch with Elks is a good option as well. Once you have all of this, we just teleport to Xeric's Inferno, run east and go down the rope, take a sip of our extended anti-fire and pray protect from magic, and then they won't be able to do any damage to you at all, assuming you stay out of melee distance, making this relatively AFK and relaxed. The average kill is worth over 25k GP, and the wiki rate states about 1.1 million GP per hour. Personally, I received about 800k in an hour, considering I was using a dragon crossbow. This is a very popular method for ulting, or you can do it on a black dragon task, and I'll give this a 7 on the AFK scale. For our final method of the video, we're going to be making pineapple pizzas, which is a super low level friendly method requiring only 65 cooking, which is super easy to obtain. Here we just take 14 pineapple rings and 14 plain pizzas, combine them together, bank, done. In an hour you can roughly do about 2500 total, and after a total hour I actually received 950k GP and over 100k cooking XP on top of that for minimal effort and barely any requirements at all. I'll give this a 8 on the AFK scale only because you do have to bank quite frequently, but it is very relaxed. And that's 23 methods you can try out for yourself to make some GP. Don't just blindly jump into a method, test it if it's still good first by using the wiki and trying it out yourself, and then have at it. I had a lot of fun making this video, and made some GP for myself even, which I can't complain at all about. Like, subscribe, and comment for more videos like this. I got a lot of things planned in the near future, so I'm excited for that, and thanks for watching.